Okay. So Echad Kachim. So we're on Daf Kuf Tes Amud Aleph. Echad Kachim Ksherin. V'Echad Kachim Psulin. Shaya Psulin B'Kodesh. V'Kreven B'Chutz Chayev. So both Kachim Karbanis, which are kosher to be brought, and also Kachim that are puzzle to be brought, which we learned earlier about, and that their invalidation happened in the Kodesh. So then you brought them outside the Beis Hamikdash. So chayev, you are chayev for bringing them outside. If somebody brings a kezayis of an oila and a murim, the sacrificial parts which are not eaten, so you bring them outside. Well, none of them's eaten because this is an oila, but in general, if it was a shlam, but we'll see in the Gemara about that part. So chayev, then you are liable. So again, what we're talking about is the that you're not allowed to bring karbanis outside of its designated area in the Beis Hamikdash, and also if you even bring a kezayis of an oila and it's a murim outside, it's chayev, and the Gemara is going to discuss, as we're going to see, that why does it talk specifically about an oila and why does it differentiate? Right.
It's not kezayis of this or that, but it's both of them together.
So you're right, exactly. We're going to see the Gemara goes extensively into this. Tana Rabbanan. The Rabbanan learned in a Braisa, Asher Yala Oila. That the pasuk says that if any person will bring an Oila, Ein Li Yala Oila. How do I know that that's right? This is only referring to an Oila, you might think. Right, that you're not allowed to bring it outside. Minayan l'Rabbi Semurei Yashim. How do I know to include in the prohibition of bringing a carbon outside of the Beis Hamikdash? How do I know that it includes the sacrificial parts of an asham, ve'murei chatas, which are the parts that are burnt, and a murim of a chatas, ve'murei kachei kadashim, and the murim of kachei kadashim, of the holier karbanis. So ve'murei kachim kalim, and the emurim of kachim kalim. So how do we know to include all of those? Talmud Laimer, the Torah says zevach. It says a sacrifice. So it enumerates an oila or a sacrifice, which would include any of these aforementioned karbanis. So how about the non-animal karbanis? Right, that you bring the kaimetz from the mincha or the levaina of a mincha, and the ketairas, the incense, Uminchas Kehanim, and the mincha of Kehanim, minchas Kain Mashiach, the mincha of the anointed Kain. V'amenasech shleishes lugin yayin u'shleishes lugin mayim. And also somebody who pours on the mizbeach, on the outside mizbeach, by the nesachim, when nesachim are brought, 3 lug of wine and 3 lug of water, as we'll see in the Gemara. So these include many kezesim. Right, so if anybody brings this, so how do we know that you are chayev for bringing them outside? So Talmud Laimer, the Torah tells us, Vel Pesach Oyel Moed Lo Yavienu, that you cannot bring to the tent, to the entrance of the tent of meeting of the Oyel Moed, right? You cannot bring, which means what? Kalabal Pesach Oyel Moed Chayav Nala B'chutz. That anything which it is supposed to be brought into the Oyel Moed, then you're chayev for bringing it outside. Okay, so that's the limud to include every last thing. So again, we had the limud of Ayla, right? Asher Yala Ayla. Then we had the word, so that includes what? An Ayla. Then we said Zevach. So what does Zevach include? The animal sacrifices. So how do we know everything else, the non-animal sacrifices? Because it says El Pesach El Moed Lo Yavien. Okay? So continuing on. Ve'en li el kadashim ksherim. So now I know, what are you allowed to bring into the Oyel Moed? You would say it's only something that's kosher. How do you know something that's pasul? Minayin l'Rabbi Psulin. How could we include something that's pasul in this prohibition? Kigayin halan. For instance, what are the examples? If something was there and it was left overnight. V'hayaytze, if something left the temple courtyard. V'atame, if something became tameh. If something that was slaughtered with the intent to either eat it, right, chutz lizmanai, chutz l'mkaimai, right, which is a pigel, right, that's that's one of the examples. V'shekiblu psulin v'zarko stamai. Or if the blood was niskabel, that it was received, and then it was thrown by somebody who's not allowed to do it. So we learned this earlier in the Masechta. So blood which should be applied below the line of the Mizbeach, but was put above. Or blood that was supposed to be applied above on the top part of the Mizbeach and was put below. Or the blood that should have been applied bachutz. What's bachutz? Outside of the heichal, right? But instead, by mistake, it was put inside. Or the blood that was supposed to be put inside the heichal that was put outside of it. Upesach. This is what I was referring to beforehand, right? That it's just a long list, and your head could be spinning, as my head is. Upesach b'chatos. And a pesach or a chatos. Sheshchaton shaloi lishman. That was slaughtered, not for its own sake. Minayin. So how do we know? All of these examples, right? Which is that if these items are, that they're not technically supposed to be brought, that they're not kosher, right? So how do we know that they're also included in the prohibition of chutz, of bringing them outside of the Beis HaMikdash? Talmud Loimer, the Torah says, Lo yiviyenu lasais, that you're not allowed to the Pesach of the Oil Mayed, you're not allowed to bring it in order to perform it, or our scroll says to render it, right? How do we understand that? It says, Kol miskabel Pesach Oil Mayed chayav lo bachutz. So anything which is niskabel, this is very interesting, which is niskabel at the entrance, so one is chayav, which means what? What does it mean that it's niskabel? Is it a carbon or is it not a carbon? So it's la yered, which is that once it's up there, you can't take it down. So therefore what? So now since the kohen has to be involved in burning it, so that's considered a sacrifice, which means what makes it included in the prohibition is because he has to do something with it. What does he have to do? He has to make sure it gets burnt, right? You got to move it around. Okay. Right. So that's how we know all of these things are included. Hamalek zayis min ha'oilav. Somebody offers up a kezayis, right, from the oilah. So what's the halacha then? What did we say? So if you bring it bachutz, then you are chayiv. So oilah ve'muraha'in. This is only talking about an oilah and its sacrificial parts. Shlamim ve'mureim loi. So then what's the implication over here? Is that it's only by an oilah. It's not by a shlamim. And we have a riot to this as well, that we saw Mishnah, right, as well. That what do we say? Right, so we have a brisa now that proves what we had in the Mishnah. Tanina la d'Tana Rabbanan. So we have a brisa that reaffirms what we said. Oilah ve'mureha mitzarfen l'chazayis l'aloysim b'chutz. That the midah of an oilah and its a murim combine to a kezayis to be liable for bringing it bachutz, which means as follows, which is that an oilah brought separately from its emurim?
No, they're burnt together.
They're all burnt together. But we view it as though it's separate. Why? Because by shlamim, right, it's all burnt together, but at the same time, we're just using the same terminology that we would use by a shlamim. So by an oilah, so both the meat and the emurim, the things that are traditionally just burnt and not eaten, so that combines for a kezayis, right, if you bring them outside of the Beis HaMikdash. And to also be mechayiv you because of pigel, and nicer, if it's left over, and tameh. Okay? So what's the implication over here for a shlamim? That would they be combined or would they not be combined? What's that?
Looks like it.
They would be or would not?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, are you contrasting the fact before the kezayis where it is combined?
Well, we're saying oilah. It only says oilah. So what's the implication for a shlamim?
Anything else not.
That's what it would seem. Okay, so let's see in the Gemara. So this is really where we have to fasten our seatbelts because it gets exciting. So it's understandable that regarding the chiyuv for an oilah, why would an oilah be combined? Why would the meat and the emurim of an oilah be combined as opposed to a shlamim? Because it's all burnt. There's no differentiation. Right? So, Ella, Pigel, V'Naiser v'Tamei, but for Pigel and Naiser and Tamei, my timer. Why should there be a difference between Ayla and Shlomim? Why? How could you differentiate between Pigel, Naiser, and Tamei as opposed to the actual Ayla itself? What's the difference? Or the regular Shlomim, rather. Right? What's the Gemara getting at over here? Okay, that we're saying over here this morning at 6. I had to review this piece again. It's a bit complicated. So what's the difference? This is as follows. Okay, so look at the Ayla. So you have the meat parts, and then you have the parts that are traditionally just burnt, right? Like on a regular carbon. So within Ayla, everything's burnt, so it's combined. Within Ayla, you have Pigel, Naiser, and Tamei, right? It's all the same. We don't differentiate. They could be from the Emurim part, from the Chalev part, let's say, and the Basar part. Okay? That could combine. How about with the Shlomim? Right? So, for a regular case of Chutz, so imagine if I take half a kazayis of the meat, half a kazayis of the Chalev, and I bring it outside. So what should be the halacha there? Are they combined or not? No. It would seem not. But, how about for Naiser, or for Pigel, or for Tamei? Should they be combined? So let's think about it like this. You would say yes. Why?
Because they're all burnt.
Because it's all burnt, essentially, right? Which means that you can't eat it. Right. We were differentiating by Islam that you could eat the meat, and you can't eat the Chalev, so they can't combine. But by Pigel, Naiser, and Tamei, you can't eat it. So it's just like an Ayla. So if you bring it outside, so until the moment it gets outside, there's a difference. Right? So you're saying that they can't combine. But if it's Pigel, Naiser, and Tamei, even before it gets outside, right? They were both the same status, which means you couldn't eat it. The basar is just like Chalev in regards to its status to being burnt together, essentially.
The difference is that with Pigel, it didn't start off non-edible. Pigel started off in a way that could have been eaten.
Right, or Tamei for that matter. Or Naiser,
only along the way did it change its status.
Right.
At the very end, actually, it changed its status.
So this is...
The Emurim can never be eaten.
What was that?
The Emurim can never be eaten.
Yeah, they can never be eaten, but the basar...
No, so what we're saying is that along those lines, that since the basar could have been eaten, it changes its status by something else happening.
Right.
Correct.
Right. So the truth is, I mean, your rationale is the original rationale, right? The problem is that we have a Mishnah that goes with the other line of reasoning, okay? And that's really going to be the issue over here. So we're not just working off of logic alone over here. It says, Vatnan, we learned in a Mishnah, Fakert, Kol HaPigulim Mitzdarfin, B'chol HaNaisarim Mitzdarfin. That Pigel is Mitzdarf and Naiser is Mitzdarf. So the Basar and the Emurim are both Mitzdarf. So Kasha Pigel are Pigel, Kasha Naiser are Naiser. So we have a basic Kasha over here. We learned in a Mishnah Me'ilah that Pigel and Naiser is combined. It seems, it's not explicit, but it seems from our Mishnah and from the Brisa that the Gemara brought, that where is it combined? Only in which case? Only by an Ayla. By Shlomim is it combined? No. Right? There's a difference. Even by Pigel and Naiser and Tamei, it's not combined. Over here we have a Mishnah that says explicitly that Pigel and Naiser is combined. So what do you do? How do you reconcile this contradiction? Okay? So the Gemara immediately jumps in. And it says, Pigel a Pigel like Kasha. So Pigel's not a problem. Why? Because there are two types of Pigels. What's the Pigel?
Come on.
Right, well, there's that. But let's see, there's an action, and then there's machshava, which means there's a consumption of Pigel and the thought of Pigel. What's the difference between the consumption of Pigel and the thought of Pigel? So the consumption of Pigel, right, then it's all the same. But the thought of Pigel, what's the difference between the thought of Pigel between the Emurim and the Basar of a Shlom? Let's talk this through before we see it inside. What's the difference?
You have to eat a kazayas by the consumption.
So what's the machshava of Pigel that would make it aser for the meat?
Eating it.
That you're thinking that what are you going to do with the...
Eating it beyond the time or place.
What about for the Emurim? What's the prohibition of Pigel with the Emurim? Is it eating it?
No.
It's burning it. So your machshava of pigul is entirely distinct. Because your machshava of pigul for the meat is to eat it. For the emurim is to burn it. So that is separate. And that's the time that it's not mitzvah. That's our Mishnah here in ZEVACHIM. That's our brisa that the Gemara brings. What's the Mishnah Me'ila talking about where it's mitzvah? That's when you actually eat it. When you're actually eating those items, then it all is combined. Okay? So let's see in...
So there's no look in terms of Ismano and Makoma, which we've also distinguished before?
Yeah, that's what it seems in the Gemara. Yeah, for these purposes, that's what it seems. Because we're talking about a psul, right? So it's puzzle anyways. It's a question of einish, right? But it's puzzle anyways, and that's what I believe is the case over here. Okay, so pigul like kasha. Let's see it inside. So pigul, right? On pigul is not a problem. Why? Because kan pigul. In our Mishnah, we're talking about actual pigul that you're eating. Okay, but kan b'machshav is pigul. In the brisa, when it seems that they're over here that we were bringing, right? That it says that when do they not combine? Is when the meat and the emurim, when you're thinking of them, right, to render them pigul. When do they, yes, combine? When you're actually eating them. Okay? So that's why our brisa over here in our Mishnah is not talking about eating. It's just talking about thinking about it. Okay, good? How about nicer? How about leaving it over? So nicer like kasha. There's no kasha on nicer. Why? Because kan ben nicer, kan b'sheni toisru ad shalei nizer kadam. Very interesting over here. There are two cases. One case is the liability of eating nicer. So what's the halacha then? Are they combined? So yes. That's the Mishnah Me'ila. It says they're combined. When are they not combined? So listen closely to this. It says when they're left over from a carbon that was missing or destroyed or something happened to it before the blood was thrown. So what's the havamina that you should be chayiv? What's the case? So the case is that if all that's left is a kezayis of the basar and the emurim together, they don't combine to allow its blood to be thrown. And therefore, it doesn't come nicer. So those two don't combine. However, if you would have eaten it right after it already had the status of nicer, right? So what we're saying is like this. Once it has the status of nicer and you eat it, you're done. But before it gets to that status, what do you need in order to make it nicer? You need at least a kezayis of either the basar or the emur. But you can't they don't combine together. Okay, so far so good? Are we still together here a little bit? A little bit. Okay, fine. Let's keep on going. Well, this is why you just daven to Hashem that we should just understand the Gemaras. Okay, that's why they have all the story that people would be learning of Pnei Yeshua, this, right, and they don't understand it. So then you go to the caver to try to understand it. That's what we have to do. Umani. Okay, so who's the Tana of this brisa? Rabbi Yeshua. Because this is a chiddush, right? It's Rabbi Yeshua. What did Rabbi Yeshua say? Tisanya. For we learned in a brisa. Rabbi Yeshua says, all the zevachim, all the offerings in the Torah, shenishtayir man kazayis basar, of which they were missing, they were destroyed, they're gone, right? But all that remained is how much? A kazayis. Kazayis chelev, or a kazayis of chelev, of the emurim. Yeah, of the fast, the forbidden fast. So, zayrik es hadam. Then you can, yes, throw the blood. However, that's our case, right? That we were just saying, if you have half a kazayis of the basar and half a kazayis of the chelev. So what's the halacha then? You cannot throw the blood. How about the case of an ayla that was destroyed? Right? What's the halacha there? So chatzizayis basar, chatzizayis chelev, right? Zayrik esadam. Why? What's different over there? Because it's entirely burnt up. How about a mincha? right, that if you still have a mincha, let's say the animal is gone, disappears, you have the blood and you have its mincha. By offering the mincha, does that allow you to throw the blood? Or could you throw the blood by having this mincha? So it says, umincha, however, by mincha, afilu kula kayemes. Even if the whole mincha is intact, lo yizrak, you're not allowed to throw the blood. Okay? So obviously, according to Rabbi Yeshua, this is pashut, right? What did we just see from Rabbi Yeshua? What does he hold?
Depends.
Like everything in life.
Depends on which situation. If it's an ola,
right.
it's sorry.
Right.
Starve.
Very good. If it's not an ola, it's not an starve. Okay? There's a chiddush of Rabbi Yeshua. However, what in the world does this mincha have to do with anything? Right? Mincha mai avidita. Because we're assuming that it's just a regular mincha that's brought alone. Right? I spoiled the fun over here. But the mincha, right? You just see a mincha. What's a mincha? Right? You bring a mincha. Like, why are we assuming it's anything different? So, what's the shaykhus of a mincha? There is no blood at a mincha, right? A mincha is the vegetarian carbon, right? What?
The comments.
So Amir Papa says, minchas nesachim haba mazevach. We're talking about a minchas nesachim that comes together with the zevach. So what might you have thought?
You lost some comments.
You might have thought that because it comes along with the animal, it's offered with the animal, so what might it be? It might be the animal itself, right? So Kamash Malan, that it's not. Rabbi Sudley and myself went to a wedding, and they made sure everything, all the hot dogs and hamburgers and everything was all vegetarian, because it was on a farm, and we say that if you have a wedding on a farm, so a farm is where animals are supposed to be living and not dead. Okay, so you see all this meat, it's not real meat. So sometimes you could see this mincha, right? You think it's really part of the animal. So Kamash Malan, that it's not part of the animal, that a mincha is considered, right? It's an appendage, it's not the animal itself. So it's not enough to be zerik the dam, even if you have the mincha intact. It's not as though we look at it, they have the carbon and the mincha, so it's all one offering. It's not. It only comes along together with the meat, and it doesn't become part of the meat. That's what we're saying. Yeah?
A mincha is lifnei atzmo. Why would you have a havamina that it's part of the basar, combined with the basar?
Very good. Very good. It seems like this, that the havamina is that the only reason why you're bringing a mincha is because, with the carbon, you bring a mincha.
Yeah.
So, therefore, you have menachos that are standalone menachos.
Yeah.
And then, but because over here it's not a standalone mincha, so you would think that it's only coming because of the animal, so it just becomes part of the animal. Okay, let's continue. So far, so good? Yes? Do we need a recap or we're good? Okay, let's go back to it. Hakaymet Tzval Vayna in the Mishnah on Kuftes Amud Beis. Hakaymet, the kaimet of a mincha, and the levayna and the levayna of a mincha. B'aktyrus and the incense. Uminchas kahanim and the mincha of kahanim. Uminchas kain Mashiach and the mincha of the anointed kain. Uminchas nesachim and the mincha that accompanies the carbon, of the libation mincha. Shehikrev me'achas men kazais v'chutz. That from any of these menachos, the levayna, the ktaris, any of these things, that you brought a kazayas outside of the Beis Hamikdash, chayiv, you're chayiv. Rabbi Lazar paitachi yaakov es kulan. Rabbi Lazar says this cryptic comment, which
a complete unit.
But what does that mean? What does that mean?
It's not the kazayas of it, has to be the complete thing.
The kazayas of what? Any of these?
Of the carbon.
So we're going to see. We're going to see in the Gemara. The Gemara has a detailed discussion about to what extent does he hold that you need the entire item, and which case is he arguing about. Okay? So let's continue. B'kulan sheker b'pnim. If any of these items are brought inside, v'shir man kizayis v'kriv v'machutz. So imagine if you bring, most of it, most of these menachos, and you just leave over one kazayas, and you bring that kazayas outside, what's the halacha? Chayiv, you're chayiv. and if any of these items were reduced even a bit, v'kriva b'chutz, and then it was brought outside, pater. You are pater. Why is that? Why would you say that's the case? It's because if it's a non-animal carbon, it has to be complete. Okay? So if any part of it was not brought, if any part of it was missing, so then that in it of itself is not considered from the carbon, right? The previous case, so what's the difference of this and the previous case? What? It's because you already brought it, right? And then you took a kazayas of what was brought to bring outside. Over here, right, it was reduced before it was brought, right? That's what I believe the case is over here, okay? And it seems that except for the levina, if it's missing, then it's not a problem. But that's it's a question what the case is over there. Okay, and then hamakriv, last part of the Mishnah. Hamakriv kachim ve'emurim b'chutz. If somebody brings kachim or emurim, right? So the animals or their sacrificial parts, like the chelav and the other parts that are not eaten. So what happens if you bring that outside of the Beis Hamikdash? Chayiv, you're chayiv. So Tanei Rabbanan, the Chum taught us. Hamakter kizayis k'teris b'chutz chayiv. If somebody who burns a kizayis of the incense outside, so then you're chayiv. Chatzi pros b'fnim pater. However, if you burn half a pros, this is an amount, inside, then you are pater. So what does this mean? So let's try to understand this. So again, what does the Brisa say? The Brisa says, if you bring a kizayis of k'teris outside your chayiv. However, let's look inside. If you burn half of the pros inside, then you are pater. What in the world is going on here? Right? What does this mean? On first glance, what does this mean?
It means they have to have a kazayis in order to be high.
Right. So Rashi points out it's lav dafka chatzi pras, right? It could be a kazayas.
Can we have a review of the measures?
Any amount.
So you have kazayas, you have beitzah, then you have pras. Is that?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure exactly the entire breakdown of this.
What's it?
I was never that great with all the measurements. Yeah.
But this has to do with ZEVACHIM.
Let's continue on. So Ksal Kadaita. Okay, it's a larger measurement than a kazayis. That's the thing. So we'll see. We'll see. I think it's a process, the total measurement for the tires. But we'll see. We'll see later in the Gemara. Ksal Kadaita. Yeah. Ksal Kadaita, it was initially thought, my pater, what does it mean by pater? Okay, this is where it gets a little complicated. Okay, actually, let me review the Mishnah one more time before we get into this. Because we have to, be focused. So again, the Mishnah says that if you bring from the Kaimitz, or the Levina, or the K'tairis, or the Minchas Kehanim, the Minchas Kai Mashiach, the Minchas Nesachim, any of these type of non-animal sacrifices, so if you bring one kazayis, that's all you have to bring, outside of the Beis Hamikdash, what's the halacha? You're chayiv. What does Rebbe Lazar say? Until?
You bring the
whole thing. You need the whole item. Okay, second piece is that if you brought them inside, if you brought any of these non-animal sacrifices inside, but you left over, as part of your aktar, you left over a kazayas, and you bring it outside, you're chayiv. However, if it was not brought, right, and you reduced it, let's say you left a kazayas inside, right, and then you went outside with the rest of it, what's the halacha? Pater. Because it's as though it got ruined. And then, final ruling is that if you bring kachim and memurim outside, you're chayiv. Okay. So now, let's get back here. Okay, so Tanei Rabbanan, I'll start again. So Tanei Rabbanan, the Chum taught in the Brisa. So if you bring kazayas of k'tairis outside your chayiv, however, a half a pras inside, you're pater. The problem is like this. Why would you be chayiv by bringing a chatzi pras inside? What's going on over here? What does it mean that if you bring it inside, you're pater?
You've done some of the avoda already. It means inside.
Yeah, you've done the avoda. What's the problem?
Good.
Yeah. So what's pater? What are you pater from? So let's try to understand what that means. So we thought initially, my pater, what does a pater mean? Pater zar, a non-kohen who burns half a pras of the ketores is pater. He's pater from kares, right? That you're not allowed to do this, so you're pater. Good. Right? So he's not going to get killed, essentially, from God. So why should he be pater haktara? It is a haktara, right? It's considered a haktara. Why do we say it's considered a haktara? Because what's the first ruling? What's the first ruling of the brisa? How much do you need in order to be chayev for bringing it chot? How much? A kazayas. Is a pras bigger than a kazayas or smaller? It's bigger than a kazayas, right?
It's arba beitzim.
Right, so it's bigger than a kazayas.
Oh yeah.
Right. So therefore, what should the halacha be? Should you be chayev or pater? Which means if you bring a kazayas, you're chayev. So if you bring half a pras, what's the halacha? You're for sure chayev. Okay? So what's going on over here? How could it be that you're pater? Right? It says that you're pater, but if that's the right amount, then you should be chayev. So so they say no. That's not what it means. My pater, what does it mean that you're pater? Pater sibar. It means that once this is brought for a communal offering, the tzivar's obligation to bring the offering has now been exempted, which means they have fulfilled their obligation. So pater doesn't mean from liability, it means from responsibility, right? That you actually have to bring a carbon. Okay, good?
Even though the czar brought it.
No. We moved away from that. Okay? Yeah. We're saying that if that amount was brought, then you're pater. It's purely an amount piece. Yeah? So I think, right. Okay. Yeah. Very good. Yeah, so it means, and again, it doesn't mean half a pras itself. It means smaller than the regular amount, right? It's lapdafka. That's what Rashi pointed out initially. All right, let's continue on over here. So now Rabbi Zev asks a question. He says, "I kashli." He says, "You know what? I have a different difficulty with the brisa. Hadamer Rav Allah. I have a problem with this, which Rav said on it. Baha afilu Rebbe Lazar Maida. They said with this ruling that if you only brought chatzi pras, that your yaitse, it should have used the word yaitse as opposed to pater, right? So that your yaitse, so what does Rebbe Lazar hold on this? What would you say? Rebbe Lazar says that you need the full amount in our Mishnah. What would Rebbe Lazar say about this case? If you only brought chatzi pras, what's the halacha? So there's the problem. Because Rab says that that's sufficient. Rebbe Elazar lavaktori kamer. For Rebbe Elazar said in the Mishnah, so what's going on over here? That over here he says, Rab says that Rebbe Elazar holds that it's sufficient to bring chatzi pras. And the community has fulfilled their obligation. But Rebbe Elazar said beferish that it's not good enough in our Mishnah. What's going on over here? Samar Rabba. Yeah, so let's remember this question, because the Gemara keeps on getting back to this question. Amar Rabba. Rabba says, Baktara deichol dikuli amalai pligi. Regarding the burning in the heichal, right, of the outer sanctum, right? In the heichal, so everybody agrees, which means that's the daily offering that we bring, right? The regular terms. That everybody agrees that how much do you need? How much do you need to fulfill your obligation? We're saying everybody agrees. So what's everybody? Do you need the full amount or just the kazayas? Just the kazayas. That's all you need. Keep pligi. So when does Rebbe Elazar and the Chum argue about the Rebbe Elazar says you need the full amount, and the Chum hold you only need a kazayas? Only baktar de bifnim. They only argue regarding the burning inside. What's the inside? What's the pnim? When is the ktaris brought in the pnim? When is that? On Yom Kippur. So on Yom Kippur, what does Rebbe Elazar hold? So the Mar Savar Rebbe Elazar holds Mleichaf of Davka. That when the Torah says that you need, right, the 2 handfuls. When do you, so that's Davka, that it's absolute. right? And you need the full amount. But the Chum hold that Mloi Chafnav is not dafka, which is much easier for the Kohen Gadol, because imagine what he's balancing, getting in there with the coals and the shovel and everything else. So if a little bit spills, according to Rebbe Lazar, you are not yaitse, right? According to Chachamim, you are. But what's the halacha about the daily ketairos?
But even Mloi Chafnav, it says if you didn't do it, you didn't fulfill your obligation.
So the question is, what does Mloi Chafnav? So what does Mloi Chafnav mean? That's the question. So Mloi Chafnav, they're saying, is lav dafka. When it says you don't fulfill your obligations, lav dafka, right? It means you need it, but the shear is lav dafka. Okay, let's continue on. And then Amalei Abaya. Abaya told Rabbi. He says, but the Torah says chukah. It says it's a decree. So how could it be that the burning of the ketairos, right, of the inner sanctuary, which is when do we burn that ketairos? Yom Kippur. So it says chukah regarding that. So what would chukah imply? And so who agrees that it's dafka? Rebbe Lazar, we know, says that it's dafka. Who's the other one? The Chachamim. So they hold it's dafka. So what's going on? Alam Abaya. So Abaya has to say, so what do we have to move away? So again, let's remember our problem here, right? Our problem is like this. Rebbe Lazar says you have to bring the full amount. Chum say you don't have to bring the full amount. It's clear from the brisa that we brought that you don't have to bring a full amount, right? Because even if you bring a kezayis bachutz, you're chayav. Okay? So what's going on over here? When does Rebbe Lazar hold that it's dafka? Right? And we just said that Rebbe Lazar holds it's dafka bifnim kodesh kadashim, but who else also holds that it's dafka? The Chachamim. So our Mishnah can't be talking about that, right? So what's our Mishnah talking about? That there's a machlokes with the Chacham and Rebbe Lazar about whether you need the full amount or a partial amount is sufficient as well to be chayiv. Yes? So far so good? Okay. Salam Abaya. Abaya gives another understanding of the machlokes Rebbe Lazar and the Chacham. Says B'aktara b'fnim kuli amalei pligi. Regarding the Aktara b'fnim, what does nobody argue? Meaning what? Everybody agrees on Yom Kippur that it has to be the full amount. Keep playing about Baktar Dechot. What are they arguing about? Regarding the daily Aktara. I'm sorry, not the daily. It's the Yom Kippur one outside. Okay, which means what were we talking about beforehand? We were trying to attribute the machlokes to the shear needed to be yaitse, right? Now we're saying to be chayiv for taking it outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Yes? Good? So keep looking back to the chutz. So when are they arguing for burning it outside of the Beis Hamikdash? So the Chum hold that you learn out pnim from chutz, which means what? What's the pnim from chutz? That you learn out, what's the pnim? Which ketairos is bifnim? On when? On Yom Kippur. The chutz is every day. So every day, what's the shear in order to be chayiv? A kezayis. So what's the shear for Yom Kippur also? According to Chum, how much? A kezayis or the whole amount? It says Mloi Chafnav, that's what you need inside. But how much do you need to be chayiv for going outside? So he's saying, wait, according to Chachamim, he says, we learn that it's just like the daily one regarding going outside of the Beis Hamikdash. So then you have a lower shear, which is just a kezayis. Okay? Inside, how much do you need? The full amount. Outside, all you need is a kezayis. Okay? Good? However, Umar Savar Rebbe Lazar holds, Layalfinan, we don't learn it. So therefore what? Therefore, how much do you need outside for the Yom Kippur ketairos? You need the full amount. Okay? What would happen if you burn less than the full amount? You would be pater. Okay? Amar Rava. Rava says, Hasha chutz michutz le'alfi rabbanon. So over here, which we'll see in a second, that if the Chum don't learn out a halacha, right, of comparing two types of sacrifices brought on the outside Mizbeach, we don't even learn similarities from one another, Pnimi v'chutz mibaya, so we're going to learn out a similarity from Ketores that's supposed to be brought inside from Ketores that's brought outside. There's no comparison, right? You can't learn it. Why can't you learn it? Because what's the case that we don't derive it from the same Mizbeach, which is the outer Mizbeach? What's the halacha, Mahi? What's the halacha? Desanya, as we learned in a brayso, Yochel amayla pachas mikazayis kaimet, that you might have thought somebody brings less than a kazayis of kaimet. Or somebody brings less than a kazayis of emurim. Somebody pours less than 3 lugim of wine, or for the wine libation. Right, or the 3 lugim of water libations when we bring it. So we might have thought, okay, if somebody brings less than a kazayis, or less than a kazayis of emurim, or somebody who brings how much? Less than a kazayis of lugan of wine? No. What does it say? What does it say? How much do you have to bring? 3 lugan. Tamalay melasais, I say. The Torah says to do it, right? Which means what? You're only chayiv on the full amount, right? But not on something incomplete. But, right, we're saying you're only chayiv on what? On at least a kazayas, right? But we have a case that has many more than a kazayas, right? You have 3 lug, so it contains many kazasim. And even so, what's the halacha over there? Are you chayiv with less than 3 lugim or no? You're pater. But if we're supposed to be deriving from all the other cases, how much do you need to be chayiv? What's the minimum amount to be chayiv? A kazayas. So what should be the minimum amount by the wine or the water? A kazayas. What do we say it is? 3 lugim. Clearly, even by something that's brought on the outer mizbeach, we don't even compare everything. So for sure, for the inner one. So of course, I'm sure Rabbi Sudley will immediately throw in that they're not comparable, these two, right? It's a mur, right? They're not the same, and Ketores is the same. Okay, good. So these are, what?
Because by the liquids, we need the lugim.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Okay, fine. So this is when we learn the DAF YOMI BAYT. We'll get into these in Yanim. Okay, but this kasha. Alam Rav. Okay, but Rabba holds that this is a good kasha. So he says, right, that clearly this cannot be the halacha. So we are going in circles over here, right? Again, let's remember, what is our question? What's our original question on the Mishnah? What does Rebbe Lazar mean? What?
What's the minimum shia?
Correct. What does Rebbe Lazar mean when he says that you have to bring the entire amount? Right? Correct. What's he arguing about? Right? He uses the term of Rebbe Lazar. He says Yakrib es kulan. You have to bring the entire amount. When do you have to bring the entire amount to be chayiv? Right now, what are we saying? We don't know. Right? That's the whole problem over here. We don't know what case he's talking about. That he's arguing that there's a machlokes. The Rebbe Lazar said. So Rabba says, Kigoin dekavinu shnei chatzai pras. The case of a Mishnah is when somebody designated 2 measures of half a pras b'mana, in a vessel. So Mark Savar Kvias Mana Milsi. So Rebbe Lazar holds that once you pour them both in a vessel, right? So then you're connecting the 2 of them, and then automatically, how much do you need in order to be chayiv? He says once you combine them in a vessel, okay, you have 2 half pras amounts of ketores. You put them together in a vessel. Are you then chayiv if you only bring half a pras, right? Half of the vessel, or not? So according to Rebbe Lazar, he would say what? That the vessel combines them, so you're chayiv. Umar Savar Lav Milsahi, and the other one holds, right? The Chum hold that it's incorrect. Okay, so even if you burn as little as a kazayas, you are chayiv. Okay, so this is the kasha. The kasha is as follows, not the kasha. So the case is, it's a unique case, right? We're talking about the regular ketores every day. And how much do you usually need a kizayas? Okay? However, what happened in this case is that he set aside a pras in two separate measurements, right? He had half a pras and half a pras. Okay? And then he puts them together into one of the kalim. Okay? So Rabbi Lazar says once they're combined to such a degree, so then it's one shear, and you can no longer get rid of it. Okay? Now it's all one entity. And as opposed to the Chum hold, no, you could still just take a kazayas and then you are chayiv. I think we'll stop here and we continue tomorrow. Amir Tzah Hashem. Yeah, do you do that?
Yes, we do that.